Zohran Mamdani, he's done it. A year ago, he was a completely unknown local New York City politician, and now he's gonna be the next mayor of New York. A truly meteoric rise. Since the beginning of the year, whether you like him or not, he's energized the progressive base of the Democratic Party, and importantly, young people, in a time where it really seemed like there was literally no one, no leader, no energy, no one to lead the Democratic Party forward. The progressive base seemed completely dead after Trump's inauguration, and then came Mamdani out of nowhere, a charismatic speaker, a good debater, someone who is actually a normal human being, and he can actually, would you look at that, go on a podcast and fit in and be likable.
Your favorite cannabis shop? Just ask.
I would have to frequent them more often to have a favorite.
Okay, there we go.
It's sad to say that this is a rare thing in the Democratic Party, and in the primary, he beat the party's machine under Andrew Cuomo. A betting man would have never put money on Mamdani. He's the next star. There's no question about it. Now, the question I have is, where does the Democratic Party go from here? And to be honest, I'm left with more questions than answers. What's up, guys? It's your boy Marcus, back at it again with another video. And today, I want to talk about the future of the Democratic Party, because most of the most powerful Democrats, Chuck Schumer, most likely 2028 presidential candidate Gavin Newsom, former presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, none of them endorsed Mamdani, even when he won the primary. One of the very few exceptions is Hakeem Jeffries, and here I gotta give him props, but to be honest, he just knows that Mamdani's gonna be popular in New York. So that's why he did it. He's not stupid. But the others, they stayed quiet. And this was done strategically and tactically. I mean, Kamala even downplayed Mamdani's serious skills and ability to energize the base, bringing up some randoms in Alabama as a comparison.
That's a sort of talent spotter in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes, I really do. But, I mean, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama, Helena Moreno in New Orleans. They're all running for mayor, too, and they are stars. So I hope that we don't so over-index on New York City that we lose sight of the stars throughout our country who are right now running for mayor and many other offices, governor, and so on. So that's where I am. We got a big tent. And we got a lot of stars.
At the same time, none of these Democrats chastised Cuomo for running as a third-party candidate and going against his own party. I mean, imagine for 1 second what the reaction would have been if Mamdani had done this. Oh, he's gonna spoil the election. Oh, he's gonna give it to Republicans. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm left with this question. If the high-level party leaders of the Democrats will never, no matter the success, no matter the energy, accept an individual like Zohran Mamdani into the ranks of the Democratic Party, someone who's unabashedly for lowering housing costs, someone who's unabashedly critical of Israel, when the entire base is literally critical of Netanyahu and what they're doing in Gaza, and someone like Mamdani who fights against the US, constantly being more and more optimized for shareholder value at the cost of literally everything, our culture, our identity, our health, our environment, then can the party really only accept vapid losers? And I don't mean losers as in candidates who can't ever win the off election like Biden. What I mean is that the establishment of the party will never again run a candidate with the hopeful, populist, youth-energizing, just amazing campaign with a progressive message of "that's right, Barack Obama." Don't forget, and people like to forget this, in 2008, Obama ran an economically populist campaign stating that he's gonna institute a universal healthcare system, stating that he will spend money at home in America instead of the trillions of dollars on wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, it sort of sounds similar to this thing called America First. Obama's campaign was about change, not just the fact of the identity politics of Obama being the first black president, which of course was part of the change, but also change economically. change socially. You know, a true progressive message, not the empty platitudes of Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and Biden, the latter of which won because of purely the unpopularity of Trump. And in 2012, Romney was the Wall Street elitist who kept all his money in the Cayman Islands and never paid taxes and made all his money through stock dividends, while Obama was the normal guy fighting for the little guy who had helped everybody out with Obamacare. The Obama type of candidate, someone who brought about record turnout, not due to the unpopularity of Trump, not to vote against the Republicans, but due to the economic message, giving them something to vote for. That's no longer accepted by this party machinery. And the reaction of the party establishment to Mamdani, for me, that's the final piece of evidence that I need to confirm this. And to make matters worse, the statements by Cuomo saying that Mamdani would essentially celebrate a 9/11 style attack because he never said anything about the global intifada and that he hates every single Jewish person in New York just because the guy's a Muslim who criticizes Israel and isn't gonna go to Israel as his first foreign trip as New York mayor. I mean, these statements from Cuomo have received little to no pushback from high-ranking Democrats. And some, such as Hillary Clinton, who came out of the woodwork to criticize Mamdani, and that should tell you just how much she hates him and his message and what he stands for, even she seems to take questions about whether Jewish people will be safe with Mamdani as their mayor as like a serious consideration, as if he's gonna like start some intifada that locks up all of them. I mean, it's a joke.
Next week in this city, it does seem like Mamdani will become mayor. I'm going to ask this quite bluntly. Do the Jews in this city have a reason to be concerned?
We'll have to see what happens. I hope not.
The fact that this is someone who talks about, doesn't denounce the slogan, globalize the intifada. What are your thoughts when you think of that?
I do not believe that we are able to predict what's going to happen. I can't sit here and tell you. I can only hope that there will be whatever happens in the election, and it hasn't occurred yet. So everybody should go out and vote. But it is important, to deal with whatever the reality is next Wednesday, whatever it is, and for people to play as constructive a role as possible in making sure that we don't face the kind of worries and concerns that have been expressed.
If you had a vote in this city, would you vote for Zohran Mamdani?
You know what? I don't vote in this city. I'm not involved in it. I have not, been at all even asked to be involved in it, and I have not chosen to be involved in it. I will be there the day after, and everybody else should be too, no matter what happens.
So this completely blows these establishment Democrats' entire identity politics. We care about minorities. It throws this narrative out the window. I mean, shouldn't Kamala criticize Cuomo for his statements about Mamdani? But the loyalty to the establishment, to the party elites, it goes so deep, guys. The racism and the hatred of the other, they're gonna ignore that. They gotta stay loyal. And the answer, therefore, is clear. The party, they're not gonna kick someone like Mamdani out. They're not gonna banish him. But the people in the smoke-filled rooms in Washington, D.C., where the high-level Democrats make decisions, man, guys, they absolutely hate with every fiber in their being the economic populism and policy push from people like Mamdani. The party elite, they got more in common with their Republican colleagues. I mean, that's exactly why none of them have spoken out against Cuomo running in the general election, even though he lost the primary. He could have spoiled the election. He could have gifted it to Curtis Sliwa. I mean, the accusation against Bernie was always, oh, he's not going to put the party first. He's going to run as a third-party candidate and get the Republicans elected. I never heard any of this for Cuomo. But this is only leveled at people who speak out against the corporate class that run the Dems, just like they run the Republicans. You can see here that they would almost prefer Curtis Sliwa to Mamdani, which is telling you a lot. So the Democratic Party, they've attempted to hold back the progressive wing since it challenged Clinton in 2016 through Bernie Sanders. And by holding it back and running purely identity politics-based campaigns, vapid campaigns that were just against the racist Republicans, even shaming people who didn't vote for them. I mean, what an amazing campaign strategy. This party has suffered 2 massive defeats to Donald Trump, both defeats causing possibly permanent damage to the US. I mean, it's not even funny. But even in this moment, when energizing the base of the Democratic Party, energizing all of the liberals and progressives across the country to fight the open authoritarian takeover attempts of the Trump administration. The Democratic Party refuses to fully stand behind progressive figures who fire up the base more than anyone. They'd simply rather lose. And that's the crux of the issue. The Democratic Party cannot criticize the actions of the Trump administration because at the core, both parties are ultimately stooges of Wall Street, pushing policies that will maximize shareholder value at the cost of the average working American. Now, of course, the nuance here and I mean, I always gotta say this, it's that the Democrats make life for the average American far less worse than Republicans. They don't cut Medicaid, they want to raise the minimum wage, for example, they don't want to cut SNAP, and so on and so forth. You know, they don't get rid of free school lunches for people of low-income families, but the messaging of the Democrats, you know, the thing that you need to control to win elections, they're always going to be weak on this. They'll never own it like the Republicans do, because the Democrats, they don't have any narratives. The Republicans have their narratives. They have their enemies, the illegal immigrants, the criminals in the cities, the globalists, the police-hating leftists, the communists who dominate the universities, the atheists who murder millions of babies a year through abortions. But the Democrats, you know, they don't have any enemies. They shame voters for not voting for them, saying, oh, the Republicans will take away your health care. That's not a true narrative. That's not a real narrative. That's just party politics. But the Bernie Sanders, the Zohran Mamdanis, they have their enemies, the billionaires, the 1%, Wall Street, the neocons who invade other countries and support Israel's actions in Gaza while there are homeless veterans on the street, the elite trying to crush unions. These are the enemies, and when Democrats constantly talk about them, well, guess what? The base gets fired up, aka Obama in 2008 against both Hillary and McCain. And then look at that, they end up winning. They end up winning a supermajority in the House and a massive majority in the Senate. I mean, it's like, guys, the equation to win is right in front of you. I mean, Hillary was way more of an established figure in politics. She'd been in the limelight for decades. She had massive name recognition. But Obama, a first-term senator that people had only heard about since summer of 2004, he beat her because he talked about the Iraq War, because he said he wants to have universal health care. But the Democratic Party itself, they can no longer run a candidate like Obama because they're so far gone with their relationship with the elite, the 1%, the Wall Street. They just can't do it. The Nancy Pelosi's, the Clintons, the Chuck Schumers, they would all essentially be shooting themselves in the foot if they were to support this type of politician because they're members of the club. They will ignore everything for this. The death of Palestinians, the hundreds of thousands of homeless people in America, all the people who are suffering because of Donald Trump, the racist attacks against Mamdani by Cuomo. They're gonna ignore all of that just to keep their status in the big boy club. That's why the victory of Mamdani's, you know, it leaves me more confused about the future of the Democrats and whether the party will ever truly be able to repeat the domination it had under FDR or Obama. I mean, we talk about the current leadership being too far gone. Back in the day, they were obviously connected with Wall Street, with the billionaires, but you had the unions. You had a massive voting block of Democratic Party voters were in unions, and the party was in a way beholden to these massive organizations. Unions have lost almost all of their power. So now it's just the elite. It's just Wall Street. So the party, they can't do anything about it. So I see them only losing unless via individuals like Mamdani, the leadership of the party can possibly be changed and moved, even if it's by the absolute slightest push, forced through sheer will of the people to adopt one major progressive issue. Let's take Medicare for all. Then I could see the future as slightly positive. But as long as the party, with this willingness to sacrifice everything, pushes milquetoast, Wall Street friendly candidates like Kamala, who stand for nothing, who give people nothing to vote for, who can never dominate the narrative, and whose personalities are so consultant-brained that they can't even seem like a human for an hour on a podcast. This party, guys, it ain't going nowhere. This party ain't going nowhere, and it's just gonna keep losing. And those that push for a true progressive agenda, Medicare for all, ending the military-industrial complex, ending homelessness, well, these people, they're gonna need to break away and form their own party. But only the future will give us these answers. And if you want to know what's happening in the future in politics, well, stay tuned to this channel. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. If you liked the video, everybody, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great night.